Yeah, I was definitely wrong. It's your boy Genius out at the range, still yet with the Duty Comp PX9 from Tisas. So, what was I wrong about? Well, I was wrong because it is a fabulous, so far reliable. After I put this, let me find it. I got it in my pocket actually. After I put this 20 rounds through it, it'll be including the 56, zeroing the dot plus the initial opening video that I done. I invite you to go check it out. It'll be 200 rounds total through the gun. Now I will say this, still not enamored with the trigger. Maybe it's going to take some more time, as you saw there in that last rapid firing. I thought that I was getting a little better with the trigger, you know, after going through and only missing one of the Texas Star over there and hitting all the other targets I was aiming at. I thought that I had gotten used to the trigger, but here's the thing, hear me out. Now I know people's gonna come running in and they're gonna say, in a defensive situation, you know, I'm trying to mock how people sound. I'm trying, you know, in the comment section, it's absurd sometimes. But either way, in a defensive situation, the trigger reset's not going to matter. But hear me out. On average, I put about 3,000 rounds down range, okay? And I just shoot a lot, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week, if I'm able to, if the Lord is willing. And so I just can't help it. I feel for a reset. I just do, especially when I'm rapid firing. And it's hard to feel the reset on this, okay? It's not very audible, and it's certainly not very tactile in pushing back on your finger. So what happens is you see those dips of death. It ain't that I'm flinching before I pull the trigger. What is actually happening is I pulled the trigger and it didn't go bang, and I had to let it back out to reset to bang again. And it just causes this little dip, you know, a little lull in the action, if you will. So the trigger, I still feel the same way I felt about the trigger, but the performance and how it handles and just so far the reliability. Now, I don't know if it's better. I'm going to have to get it out here and see. I don't know if it's flatter shooting or more accurate than the P10C ported, but we will find out. But I was wrong about liking the gun. I thought that it was going to eat up the inside of my middle finger here on the trigger guard. That has not happened. The ergos kind of seem like a non-issue when I'm shooting the gun, so I'm going to say I was wrong about that. The weighted thing seems to be, again, a non-issue, so I was wrong about that. And I was just, I don't know, I just was not impressed with it in the box. But like a lot of times, you get it out to the range and you are impressed. And that's why I tell people sometimes, just because you're not completely enamored with it in the store, if it's something you've convinced yourself is going to be a good firearm, sometimes you just have to take that risk and buy it, because without shooting it, it's hard to really say. Now, I'm still not a fan of the trigger. Will that change in the comparison videos? Will that change with time as I get used to the trigger? Maybe, I don't know. I understand it's a duty trigger, but again, it's got a big chunk poured up here. So for most folks with common sense, I would think anyway, don't get offended in the comment section, please. Probably just going to use this for a range toy. I know I am a competition type gun, because I'm not carrying a ported gun, all right? So put a better trigger on there for that reason, okay? I think if I ask 8 out of 10 people if they would carry a ported gun, they're probably going to say no, okay? So put a better trigger on there. That's all I'm trying to say. If this had a better trigger that, hit a defined wall and broke right at the wall, forget about the take-up. I don't care about the take-up, but hit a defined wall and broke right there at the wall, and then had a very short canic-like or close to it reset, this would be, man, I'm telling you, I don't want to say, because I got to get other guns out here to compare it to, but I'm not hating the gun is what I'm trying to say. Going to put this 20 rounds through the gun to wrap up the 200 rounds without incident. All of it has been 115 MagTech unplated, and after this video I'm going to load it up with some 124. I even have some low recoil stuff like 100 grain that I'm probably going to put through it, and I'm also going to do some jacketed hollow point, 2 different types of jacketed hollow point, even some plus P, just to see how it runs that, if it will run that, if there's any issues. And in the initial video, I want to apologize that I didn't mention that the extended floor plate, you saw me John Wicking the 18 round magazine. I actually had to take it apart and clean it because it just landed straight up in the mud. So I had to take the magazine apart and clean it, but it's got a plastic floor plate on it. This one is actually, I'm assuming, aluminum, okay? So I didn't want to John Wick it over there amongst all the casings and scar up my floor plate. So that is an aluminum floor plate. Also, want to make mention of something I said in the initial, little 6-minute video I did about that stupid loaded chamber indicator. I know there's reasons why some people say they have to do that. It's not an option, but man, it really dirties up my optics super fast. I would say after 2 magazines, I'm having to clean it. It just absolutely sucks. I hate that. But it is happening, so, there's that. What else did I not mention before? So the floor plate, the the loaded chamber indicator, and also it has that Canic, that striker indicator on the back there. Doesn't mean that there's one in the chamber. It just means that the trigger is ready to pull, okay? Let's look at the trigger while we're doing that. So, okay, there's your reset. You can barely hear it, but you can hardly, you really can't feel anything, okay? And there's how much further it comes out after the reset. So it's almost fully back out, before it actually resets, all right? And then there's all of that take up before it hits a wall, which I don't care nothing about, but you want to talk about a rolling brake. Check this out. Not only is it rolling, but it has a tiny little bit of grit in it, which will probably work itself out. But also, it's not a predictable, I would say, brake. And I think that's why when I initially started shooting the gun, I was kind of having where I was pulling it a little bit, and because it's not smooth, as in it's the same weight or feel coming all the way back to the brake. It's kind of like it lightens up a little bit, very slightly, and then it gets a little heavier and then lightens up again right before it breaks. So I wouldn't call it necessarily a predictable brake. Now again, the best example I can give would be an FN. An FN trigger is not that great, but the more you shoot it, it becomes a phenomenal trigger. Maybe that'll happen with this one. I don't know. Let's put this through it, be 200 rounds, and move on to the next video. 200 rounds without incident. It's actually been more than that because I was shooting at a stick over here just to see how precise the red dot was. I don't know. I know I'm stupid. It's been more than 200, but 200 rounds on camera without incident. It is a fun shooting little gun, and if you've considered getting it, I think so far I can definitely recommend getting it. It is an aluminum trigger. It is feature rich, so it's worth the $465 or whatever it was I paid for it. Go out and pick you up a Tisas PX9 Duty Comp. Fun to shoot. Can't say for sure whether or not it handles the recoil better than the P10C ported, but we will find out. Stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching. You know the platforms you can support us on. Make sure that you know Jesus Christ as your Savior, the most important thing that you will ever do in your life. Reach out to me in the comment section or at gsquaredtactical@gmail.com so I can share the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thanks so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and watch the video in its entirety. And as always, on this beautiful day that the Lord has made, to God only be the glory.